It means taking 10, 15, 20 seconds extra just to understand what is the graph trying to communicate. So that drawing that inference is a bit important, right? Because it gives you the confidence that you understand it. Now you can proceed to answer choice analysis. And you can, then it's just a matter of validating and cross-checking if what you're picking up is right or wrong. That's right. So getting that base set with the data set is the first step that I used to do for every question. Take the question, don't proceed to the answer choices yet, right? But then after 6 months, I still didn't breach that barrier. That barrier is just 25. It's not getting questions or not having familiarity with questions that's causing issue. It's something other than that, and I can't solve it by myself. So that's when I said, maybe it's time to look out for options like a platform that helps me with some data, some tools, some guidance, and some mentorship. And that's when I turned to e-GMAT. I'm like, something that I did was, this is a bit weird, but I think it really helps you if you just listen to good music that you really enjoy, that keeps you pumped up, keeps you on your feet, keeps your eyes open. And you just need to make sure that you're as confident as you should be excited to go give that exam and do it, because you can't have any little ounce of fatigue or tiredness when you're giving the exam.
Hello everybody, welcome to today's video debrief session where we have with us Mohammed, who scored a brilliant 675 on his recent GMAT with a tremendous, humongous 12-point improvement in DI from his starting score of DI 74 to a DI 86. So literally a 42nd percentile to a 99th percentile. So congratulations, Mohammed. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Rashmi. I think my GMAT just concluded on Tuesday, so it's pretty surreal. And now I have one less burden to look after for my admissions processes. So yeah, it's a great feeling, and thank you so much for the support and help that e-GMAT and you have guided me towards. Yeah.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. So before we get into your journey, it was, as I said, a brilliant DI 86, a brilliant Q89. So amazing scores out there. So before that part of the journey, tell us about yourself. What do you do and what role GMAT plays in your future plans?
Right. So currently I'm from India. I'm working in consulting. And it's been around 2.5 years at this point, and I've been working in the same company and that. And last year is when I realized that I need to at least start looking out for other options, both professionally and what I want to do. And I sort of realized that, okay, master's is an option, but CAT is an exam that is conducted in India, right? And CAT is sort of very, it happens once in a year, and that's not a significant commitment that I want to do towards, right? So my idea was I'll give the GMAT. The GMAT allows me to have a score that's valid for 5 years and seek several opportunities internationally, and those options are always valid for me. I decide not to do it. I still have options where I can use that GMAT score later on in life, and then take a call on what I want to do, right? So that's how I decided GMAT. But now, when I started off my journey, I wasn't 100% devoted to it, solely because I was only 1.5 years of work ex, and then I know that, okay, GMAT requires 4-5 years work ex minimum to go to any international university. So I know it's a long way ahead. So my starting step was just basically understanding what the GMAT is, understanding how the questions are designed. So I ordered the OG books, I practiced the questions, and I finished the OG book, but then I didn't know what to do, right? So the next step is trying to figure out what other platforms are there, how can I do my study, right? So I found this forum that there's something called GMAT Club where you have questions, and there's loads of questions. It's not just a few questions that after a few questions that once you solve it, then you get a pop-up that says make a payment. So it's completely free. And that, okay, so I was practicing from it every Saturday, every Sunday. I'm taking time out to study, review the questions, and yeah, that's how my study initially started. But then after 3-4 months, I felt that I've covered sufficient questions. I've solved 500 questions, and I decided to take one mock. And that's when I got my first score, which was around a 615, 625, right? I thought, okay, as a starting base, that's pretty good. So I continued with that approach, and I kept on solving more and more questions. But then after 6 months, I still didn't breach that barrier. That barrier is just 25. So as a self-inspection, I couldn't figure out why that issue is happening. What is that that's not allowing me to cross it? Because I've solved the questions. I've done every single area. I've done some mocks as well. I've taken the free OG mocks, and that score still still at that 625. So after some evaluation, I decided, okay, since I'm going to be taking GMAT significantly, since I also already have a strong basis, maybe there's something else that is causing the issue. It's not getting questions or not having familiarity with questions that's causing the issue. It's something other than that, and I can't solve it by myself. So that's when I said, maybe it's time to look out for options like a platform that helps me with some data, some tools, some guidance, and some mentorship. And that's when I turned to e-GMAT, because I read through, like on GMAT forum, you have a lot of insights, people sharing feedback. And that's when I realized, okay, e-GMAT is pretty good. Not only do they just provide questions or mocks and sectional tests, it's also mentorship guidance, it's data. And these things really, it's very unlike if you're solving from any other platform. And that was the main goal for me, because if I'm not aware of how much time I'm taking, what are my strong suits, what are the weak suits over a large data set, that can seriously get you a lot of. But that was not something I could even do, because I was just solving questions over time, and yeah, like there's no structured approach towards that. So that's when I turned to e-GMAT. And yeah, I think the fundamental things about it was, firstly, Rashmi, you really helped me out with the whole mentorship. Every time I had a question, you weren't just looking at it, okay, do this, but also let's take a step back first and understand what you did wrong first, understand what are these process issues that you need to fix, identify any behavioral issues, work on a small data set instead of looking at a larger data set, and solving those and correcting those before moving forward. And I think that was a key differentiator in success for DI, for quant, and all these other areas, right? Next step is obviously having that understanding of what the data is actually saying, because when you're looking at when you're solving questions, okay, you'll see, okay, this is the area that I'm strong at, weak at. But if the data is saying otherwise, you have just realized a major flaw that you didn't even know that was coming up, right? Like I'm coming from a business background, so my understanding of certain terms in business, if it's marginal cost, if it's percentage of stock market returns, I can understand those terms relatively. So when I get passages in RC, for example, those I started believing that, okay, I can read through it fast, I can comprehend fast and go to the answers, and I answered it over time, right? But the data actually said otherwise, that okay, this is not going to be a strong suit, or this is not a strong suit for me, because maybe I was making behavioral errors in it by getting too overconfident with the passage. So these insights came out through the data and your support. So there was no other reason for cracking it apart from having this understanding and getting that baseline corrected. So yeah.
Got it. So I think, yeah, data was important, mentorship support was important, but one big chunk that we are you did not mention in all your modesty is the effort that you put in, right? Because till you came onto the platform, you were preparing in a very, very different way. You were solving questions, and that was the main, you know, activity that you did in terms of prep. But once you came on the platform, what we realized as you came onto the e-GMAT platform, that your quant was more or less sorted. Like you were already at an 88, 89 kind of a space. Verbal needed improvement. You were at a V80. DI needed a huge amount of improvement, considering that the score was hovering around 74, right? And that's where, you took a step back and you were ready to do that. Because it requires a big mindset shift from practice focused prep to saying, okay, that practice is not working out for me. Let me do something else. And that's where, you did the entire verbal course, you did the entire DI course. You took that step back and you put in that, effort to build the foundation, and then let your that I have practiced so many questions come in the way of willing to put in that effort, right? So big kudos to you on that you did do what was needed, right? You created a study plan, you followed it to the T, your grades are exceptional, and we look at those grades and snippets of your journey. So I think we should start with DI, right? Huge improvement, 12-point DI improvement to a 99 percentile score is a big, big, big improvement. Again, coming from the business background, coming from the consultancy background, wherein you operate with data day in and day out. What was holding your DI score back?
So again, like I said, for like the business passages that I was getting, it was just like that in DI, right? The main thing about what I realized about DI, at least later on, is DI has a significant amount of traps that are meant to create problems irrespective of the background. So it isn't that the data set is actually hard. It's designed in a way to trick you and put in traps, be it in words, be it in the graphs, be it in the options that are allowed. So every single thing, like a small thing like a percentage and a percentage point, can make a big difference in the entire answer, right? Like, so identifying those issues was something that I realized later on, once to your support, obviously. And so getting this data, these questions right, understanding the data, not understanding what the graph is, or understanding what the question answer is asking me to attempt, right? It means taking 10, 15, 20 seconds extra just to comprehend what the data is actually about. Now, the thing is that initially, when you're starting off with a question, you'll see a graph, right? Okay, let's say it's a scatter plot, right? You understand what it is. You understand, okay, y-axis is this, x-axis is this. This is what it denotes, and this is what you can draw inferences. But I used to take another 10 seconds just to understand what is the graph trying to communicate. So this is actually where like my work experience came in a bit of handy, because I'm working on graphs, I'm designing graphs every day. So that drawing that inference is a bit important, right? Because it gives you the confidence that you understand it. Now, when a question or when an exam is designed to trick you at every point, having that base confidence with you gives you an assurance at the back of your head that, okay, yes, now you understand it. Now you can proceed to answer choice analysis. Yes. And you can, then it's just a matter of validating and cross-checking if what you're picking up is right or wrong. That's right. So getting that base set with the data set is the first step that I used to do for every question. Take the question, don't proceed to the answer choices yet, right? Because DI, it's about those traps. So when I start off, you read the data set, you go to then once you're done with it, once you understand fully, you've taken some time to understand it, then you're confident about what the graph is. Then you just need to pick up and drop the values. That's basic. If it's tables, if it's graphs, then that's just what you need to do, because now you understand everything about it. You understand the units, you understand what the graph is saying, you understand who is it for, what is it for, everything you understand about the data set, right? So the answer choice analysis was a pretty standard process that I used to do. Firstly was look at the question, look at the answer, validate what the answer is requiring. If it wants correlation between X and Y, look at X, first read partly of the answer choice, then move to the graph or the table, look at where X is. Sort of minimize it and just focus on that reason and block out all the other content, right? Then go back to the question, the answer choice. Look at what is the second part of it. Is it Y? Is it Z? Is it A? Is it B? Look at that, pick it up, again do that, minimize it so that in your head mentally you can visualize the table, what you need to pick, how you need to pick. And then look at the next part. So that's strategic pausing for each answer choices. Because if you're not doing that, then things like a percentage and a percentage point can be an error. Positive correlation versus proportion can be an error. Negative correlation versus positive correlation can be an error. These small things, although you do have a fundamental understanding of it, like you understand, if I have to explain, I know what positive and negative correlation, right? I can write the formula on a paper and tell it to them. But when you're solving a question with so much significant time pressure, especially in DI, having that 100% assurance that you're getting each step of the way right is just giving that extra confidence to you that, okay, yeah, this is validated, checked, I can move on. I don't need to go back, read the graph again, check things out. I'm just going to pick up and drop it. So that time investment in owning the data set helps you actually save time towards the end of the question. Because I don't need to spend additional time to understand what, okay, wait, is there another thing to the graph? No, yes. Okay, that's never happening in the exam, never happening in it. So I'm minimizing the possibilities for error. And in DI, time is crucial. That's the only thing that sets you apart in your scores. There's nothing else. Complexity to how difficult the question is. It's not asking you to derive a new formula. Sort of, right? Just understanding and answering as quick as you can. So that's the thing about DI. Yes.
Got it. Yeah, you're right. What you're describing is the owning the data set approach, the e-GMAT, wherein the whole thing about DI is there's so many data points in a particular question. Now, if you don't sit down and process it, there is that chance that the moment you start solving, things get too overwhelming. You don't know what is it that you need to consider. And in a lot of cases, what happens is when you jump directly to solving it, you end up doing calculations which you don't need to. You're missing the trends on the graph, and you end up solving it wherein that is not needed, and visually you are able to identify, and the answer, the answer choice analysis becomes really, really quick. And this is where, we promise that we'll see some of your own sort of graphs. And since you mentioned GITA, this is where I have to, where I said, you did not assume certain things. You did not say, I work with data day in and day out, but you put in that foundation, brilliant A grades. I don't know if you remember or not. This is your GITA, the foundation, the concepts that you learn, the processes that you learn, and the, the graph for that GI. Brilliant performance. Your TA was at 75% and these are hard questions, right? So that investment on learning those concepts, learning that process really paid out in the end. You also mentioned, Mohammed, that getting into DI MSR was a big challenge. And here's where, again, I have to show you, by the time you were done with the course, your MSR was at 85%, brilliant, huge improvement. So tell us, what is it that took to get to MSR to this stage?
Right. So the thing about MSRs is it's not like RC. The thing being that with an MSR question, as a time investment that you have to take into it, you can't spend a disproportionate amount of time on the passage itself, right? You need to understand what is there in it. You need to own that data set for sure, but you need to give decent amount of time to the answer choices because you have 3 questions. You don't know what the next questions are going to be, and many times you'll have calculations that are required picking up data from one table set and from another tab, and you need to make these inferences and draw that out. So skimming is not what I'm trying to say, but actually you need to understand where each thing is
Have the bird's eye view.
understand it. Maybe don't read it out, don't read it be reading a RC. Try to comprehend what each thing is saying, make your notes, understand, okay, this is tab 1. Take 5 seconds, jot down the title of that tab, understand what it is, what's being communicated here, which parties are involved in it. If it's an email exchange, try to understand, okay, this is the data set, okay, this person is saying this in passage, another in tab 2, another person's giving a counter. Is it a counter or is it just conceding, validating it and giving an alternative? Making these inferences, jotting it down on paper helps you out, right? As I said, just for GITA, once you have that understanding of what it is, then it's just a pick up and drop. And that's the baseline of how I crack DI as an overall.
Got it. Yeah. And you had like 2 MSRs on your final test, right? So
when I practiced Sigma mocks of them, and what I realized is MSR, although my accuracy was still between 67, 80, I was getting those scores. The time invested in my NSR at the between is causing extra time pressure for me to solve questions later on. And as an MSR, you can't if you're investing 3 minutes into solving the passage, you rather finish the entire thing or you not do it. So just as a strategy that I did in my mocks is I used to skip the MSR and use my 3 reviews to come back to it, because typically you will have only 3 questions in the MSR, and that was a risk that I was willing to take. Now my final exam did not actually went about that, right? Because now I had my first MSR around question 5 in the exam, and then I decided, you know what, let's see. I went to the MSR, understood what it is. Okay, fine. Looks a bit complicated. Let's skip it for now. Let's come back when I have 5-6 minutes. If we get 2 out of 3 of this right, I'm still in a good place because I'll have the exam, right? So I skipped it, and then around question 12, I'm getting my second MSR, and this is when I know that, okay, yeah, you know what, I need to buckle up and solve this as well as I can, because I have no fallbacks. So for that, again, I employed my same strategy, right? Get the data set right, understand it was an email exchange, so I got to understand the parties involved, what's happening, what is this person trying to say, what is the data, what are the conditions involved. Now in the exam, like, you're not able to at least jot down everything, right? You can't jot down each and every condition, but just identifying that there is a condition is more than enough.
Got it.
If you're making notes, those notes need to be quick in a way that because the passage is always going to be in front of you. It's not like once you read it, you can't go back to the passage. So you need to just make a note, identify what is involved in it. Even if you're comfortable making a mental note for some things, make it. It's completely okay in the demo. So I just made my quick notes and okay, condition 1 involved here. And then I went to each tab and solved it in lab. I was able to solve that MSR actually because of these steps relatively fast. I took around 5 minutes to solve 3 questions. And in spite of 6 questions in an MSR in the exam, I got 3 right, 3 wrong, and I still did 67%. So that means relatively the harder MSR. And still at the end of it, I completed my exam. Right.
Got it.
So yeah, that strategy of skipping the MSR is a risky one. But if you do get a second MSR, it's also very important to know that, okay, you need to maximize this score because the MSR percentiles would vary, and it's going to hurt you. Yeah.
Got it. So 3 things that come out of this, Mohammed. One is, you have strategies, right? But you don't know what the test is going to throw at you.
Right.
So you need to be fluid in terms of, you could have easily panicked. Oh my God, there is another, I don't know what to do. But you took it in your stride. You were fluid enough to say, okay, this is what I need to do now. And second thing is, for any DI question, and this is very interesting, you said, and this is what the owning the data set approach also says, that you need to make a business case. It was an email. So you could have just gotten into the nitty-gritties and let it take over you, but you make the business case. If this was to happen in my work life, how would I have approached this? And third, notes. Notes needn't be paraphrasing of what you're seeing. They need to be inferences. They need to be conclusions that, it has to be an output of how you process the data set and not the exact data set copied onto the paper in a different format, right? So that's really, really brilliant. So, Mohammed, before we transition from DI, one important thing that I want to ask you is, you did your verbal, you did your quant, and then you came to DI. So, how important are verbal and quant skills for DI?
Right. So, verbal skills are fundamental because when you're starting off, you need to understand how to read. But now it's a very basic question that everyone just assumes it. But reading in GMAT is very different from reading elsewhere, right? You're not reading fun of it. You're not reading to give an answer. Just to just explain something or tell what is in. Questions are never just pick up and drop for verbal or anything, right? So you need to be able to read something, draw inferences, identify what is missing in the data set, what is something that you can draw further from the data set. And these things are fundamental because once you have that base set, you can move on to understanding how constraints are shaped in quant. Because if like in quant, for example, this happened in the exam, if they give you x is greater than y, I know x minus y than 0. So I that if the question has x minus y in the denominator, I can cancel them out because it's a positive value and I don't need to invert the inverted sign. So these things actually pay off when you're as a process skill pay off very well in quant and DI. So getting that verbal foundation is very important, right? Although the way it's structured is fundamentally different with numbers and alphabets, the process is the same. You need to pause, read, comprehend, translate. That's fundamental throughout the GMAT exam because and so getting verbal done first is a great strategy. And that's what the personalized study plan at e-GMAT also suggested, right? First, I should get that done because once I understand how to draw inferences, when I understand how to translate, make assumptions, identify role relationships, I can use the same skills further in quant and into DI. And when it comes to so skills are transferable, but in quant and DI, the skills required also overlap because DS is fundamentally the way of processing it, calculating it is very similar to quant. And GIT is also just numbers that you need to draw inferences on. So when in that ways, quant and DI skills are interchangeable, but I'd suggest, so my approach was verbal first, then quant, and then DI in my study plan. So I followed it sincerely. I did my verbal, but then when I came to quant, since I already had a high score, my strategy was, making sure that that high score is maintained, but also making sure that there was never any weak area that did not come in my exam that helped me get that score. Because in the final exam, you never know what can come. You can get 1 MSR, you can get 2 MSR, you can get 5 questions on probability, 2 questions back to back. It's completely unpredictable. So that you should not be blindsided on the exam and making sure that everything, all the cementing is done. Even though in my first Sigma X mock, I got a Q89, I still needed to make sure that that Q89 was actually representative and there wasn't any other factor that helped me get that. Was it because I got only my strengths or no weaknesses? Is everything balanced out? Is my time taken proportionate? That those things are very important to correct and make sure that that's maintained, right? DI, I had a very low score, and it wasn't because the thing about DI is when I have such a high quant score, my DI should not be that low. And those ultimately boil down to making getting overconfident and making like time pressure, right? Because in DI, the game is that everyone can solve a DI question. If you have 10 minutes, you can solve it very very fluidly. Like 95% of people, even though they've never seen the data before, they've never done the GMAT, right? So there's no innovation, there's no way of solving it. That's thing. The game is to get it down to as minimum time as you can, right? Time bank in DI is deliberately kept lower than what you need to actually solve the entire thing. And that was a strategy that is very important for DI for me. Keeping that time bank in hand, understanding not only just seeing what your accuracy is, but spending as much amount of time on how much time you're taking for each question is equally important, if not more so. Because time pressure will creep in during exam, even more during the actual exam, and that will fluster you. That'll unintentionally cause errors in your accuracy, and and that'll drop your score. So maintaining accuracy as well as time is very important for DI. For quant, if I had to say, keeping your accuracy and fundamentals strong, but not making sure there's no weak area for you, because in quant at least there's no tolerance for any error. You have to make sure that everything is as good as you can make it. Because if you get 2 questions or 3 questions wrong in quant, you are automatically drop into below 95 percentile, right? No matter if it's hard or easy, it's going to drop. So there's no chance for you to skip any part of the module, skip any module, skip any area, not solve these questions. You can't afford that. You need to solve each and every question in the final exam. Make sure that all areas are tackled. Minimizing your behavioral issues. Even though there's no guarantee for minimizing behavioral, you need to make sure that at least when you're stepping into the exam, you've tried your best to minimize it, because that gives you some assurance at the back of your head. In terms of skills required, I think those are obviously there are all these, like, you need to know your formulas, you need to know how to solve things quickly, to know how to visualize things. Those are all going to be important, but at least as a strategy that I figured out from e-GMAT is this worked really well for me. For DI especially, it helped me create a significant jump. Just understanding the time, understanding how to read it fast. Or the data set is understood. Those are some fundamental skills that will help you irrespective of what question comes. Because even if you solve 500 questions, you might not identify that. But even if you solve 10 questions essentially with that strategy, you know that, okay, you're going to get at least 80% right.
Got it. Got it. So, Mohammed, you also mentioned, as you were talking about how transferable the skills are in quant and AI, that you were starting out already at an 89 in quant.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something very, very interesting where you said that, yes, I was starting out at a higher ability, but then I had to ensure that I'm able to replicate that score. And you did a lot of effort to ensure you had to do that. Of course, you didn't do the course the way you did for verbal and DI, but you took semantic quizzes. We were able to narrow down on those pesky areas which could have brought your score down, and then transition to the sectional mocks to ensure that you are able to work on your time management, test taking skills, and behavioral issues. So tell me, how important a role did this particular strategy that we undertook for quant, how important was that in ensuring that you're able to maintain your quant score? Sorry.
Right. So just for everyone's context, my starting score when I gave my first Sigma X mark was Q89. But honestly, when I gave that Q89, even at the back of my head, I knew that, okay, this is not fully representative of my ability because I've never hit, like, maybe it was, now I've practiced so much, I've got fundamentals right, but there's also a chance that, okay, I didn't actually get everything right. If the data sets or if the questions was slightly different or different topic, maybe it would have dropped to Q85. So something that I knew beforehand, and that reflection helped me to make sure that, okay, that Q85 is not going to be attainable. At least minimum, I'm going to be hitting a Q87, 88, 89. And that was through just keeping the consistency up, working on the weak areas. Solving is important to making sure that the rhythm and the stamina still keep going on because, you need to maintain that because even if you have an error log and you fill it out diligently, it's ultimately just words on a computer or on a book, how you record it. But yeah, it's just that when you're solving a question, you need to practice that out. But once you're done practicing a question, you need to take some time to reflect on how you solve that question. It means essentially that, okay, you solved a question, but have you done the process fully? Have you taken a shortcut in between? Did that shortcut pay off? If the question was slightly different, how can you use the same shortcut? If you have to translate something, how do you record your translation? Like, where are you? Like, I used to first just jot down everything on paper and keep it up. But when there were a lot of conditions or any inferences to be derived, that used to get lost in everything. So I wouldn't even reflect back that, okay, this is greater than 0 and I don't need to pick up this value in the answer choice. Question never said take those values. They wanted negative values. So like keeping this in mind, jotting everything down, keeping things consistent, keeping the approach consistent on your paper, in your mind, keeping that clean, made sure that, okay, my overall strategy is going to pay off because like you can solve as many questions as you want, but until you'll always be getting a new question. There's never a same question that will come back. Even the processes will be somewhere slightly different, words will be shaped slightly different, and those will ultimately, if you don't have that like approach set in your head, that's going to throw you off in the final exam, you'll make silly mistakes, you will forget to consider something that's not required. You'll make these silly mistakes, and that will significantly hurt your quant score. Like in quant, you can't afford any sort of error. So keeping that clean thing in your head, the entire approach, everything, keeping the fundamentals strong, being confident is going to pay off.
Got it. It was a very good preparation, right? You got into the test with three strong legs. Your quant was set, your DI, your verbal was set too. And I think we need to segue into the test taking. Like you were able to replicate your quant score, your verbal, your DI score, but verbal did take a hit. So out of that experience, Mohammed, tell us what is it that as one sits down to take the test on the test day, what are the things that really help you transform all the effort that you put into the prep to a score that you are aiming for? And how were you able to manage that for these two sections? And in verbal, what happened?
Right. So, okay. Now, the test environment is unlike any sort of previous mock environment, right? You're not in your home. You're not starting the exam off on the same computer in the same desk. It's a different environment. And that sort of like it has a bit of anxiety, like it creates a bit of anxiety for you because, for example, there are like 10 other people sitting around you solving an exam, and you're giving like noise cancelling headphones to avoid it, and it's a new feeling on your ears, and you're trying to figure out how to like use it. So I was taking off my earphones and picking it back up sometimes, and yeah, these things are just there throughout. So the thing is, you need to firstly just try to make yourself comfortable with any environment you're in. Now, take the test at the same time that you'll be actually taking exam. Keep a schedule ready of what you want to do on the day of the exam. I have the schedule already set that, okay, 8:30, I'm going to get up, 9:30, I'm going to finish eating my food, get ready, 10 o'clock, I'm going to start booking my cab, 10:15, I'm going to get in the cab. Every single step of the way, I'm getting that sorted, right? Just because there's nothing else on my mind. Like, I don't need to worry about anything. It's clear goal. I need to go give an exam to the best of my ability. And nothing else, okay, oh shit, did I forget my password? Did I keep it? No, nothing should be in your head. And on the day of the exam, like I just like something that I did was this is a bit weird, but I think it really helps you if you just listen to good music that you really enjoy, that keeps you pumped up, keeps you on your feet, keeps your eyes open. And like you just need to make sure that you're as confident as you should be excited to go give that exam and do it because like you can't have any little ounce of fatigue or tiredness when you're giving the exam because it's a long exam. It's 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes with a break. And it towards the end, it will have a toll on. You lose your concentration, you lose your focus, you start reflecting over, shit, did I get this right? Did I get this wrong? My verbal, my DI, I skipped this one question, I skipped this MSR, oh no, what do I do now for verbal? That strategy, you need to be sure, okay, that this is the strategy that I'm going in with. This is how it's going to pay off because it has paid off in all my mocks. The data shows that this is going to pay off. So I don't need to worry about that. I need to keep that aside on the day of the test. Just focus on what I've done in the past and replicating that. So even though I've never gotten 2 MSRs on the final day of in my mocks, on the final day of the exam, I wasn't really worried about it. Because I know that, okay, yeah, the entire data set has said this. I know that this is payoff and I shouldn't be letting it worry or affecting my other sections. That was the strategy.
You mentioned a very brilliant thing. Sorry to cut you off here. Two things you said made a lot of, influence on me. One is you have seen the data. The data has said that you will. So to trust that data, that's your own data and be confident about that is super, super, super critical. And second is whatever variables that you can control, try to control them. As in, but there are going to be variables that are outside of your control, which you shouldn't, let them affect you. Be in that frame of mind, be in a pumped up manner, be excited about the test, which is such a great thing to say. Don't dread it, don't be anxious, don't be panicky, but be excited about the test. You put in the prep. The only way now for you to get the score out of it is to be excited. So yeah, I had to reiterate that because, with so many scores that are lost because of not being excited and dreading the test. So yeah, you were saying.
Yeah, so yeah, that's even like like we give exams, we give school exams, and always that feeling of dread that okay, oh god, now this final exam is there. And you start panicking last minute. The GMAT is not going to do that for you. The only thing is in school when you're doing an exam, it's a test of your knowledge. The GMAT is a test of your ability, and that ability is not. And it's not a function of your knowledge or or of the concepts you know. It's about how you answer each and every question, and that doesn't come in with factors that you bring new variables with new behavioral issues that you're just bringing unnecessarily. So you need to keep that just as like out of the way as possible. So yeah, that was just my strategy that I had. Right, I don't want any sort of tension on the day of the exam. To keep it keep everything in your mind. I didn't study on the day of the exam. I didn't study the day before the exam. I was done with my mocks. I was confident. Okay, this I have a significant data set to back this up. I've solved 10, 15 mocks in each section. I have that done. Right, it isn't some particular limitation on the number of questions that I've answered that is skewing the data. There's no sort of those variables because at the end of it, when you have a large data set, you can reliably trust that data. So that was just my rationale, right? Like I know that okay, on the day of the exam, maybe there is a chance that one or two questions, even though I have 90 percentile in hard, I can still get it wrong. Yes, that is true, no doubt. But you need to minimize it. That's the bottom line of it. You know that okay, that on a larger data set, 95% of the time you're going to hit what you've already been hitting. But that 5% error can happen because of behavioral issues, any sort of things, right? You make these mistakes, and that's okay. Like ultimately, we are all human only, and you can't really minimize it to zero. But yeah, that's just about it. So keep everything like be confident before you step into the exam. You don't need to worry too much because you have a good backing of whatever decision you made till now, right? You've had data, had guidance, you have expert understanding of, okay, what's going to come. And yeah, you just take it one question at a time, take it one section at a time. Don't let anything distract you on that day. So yeah, that's just about it. That really helped me on the day of the exam, because I'm a very anxious person, if I have to say. Like, so even in school exams, when I'm giving anything, like, I have crammed the entire book. I can answer any question. If a friend asks me, even after the exam, before the exam, I can give him the full answer. But on the exam paper, I might not write. Right.
Okay.
So that was an issue that I knew before starting. So my corrective actions became far more important even before. So like I had this at the back of my mind even 1 month before my exam. Okay, this is the exam date I'm going to start. Let's backtrace it. What am I going to do? How am I going to keep it as consistent and structured as I can? Because if I'm not, then I'm just creating more problems for me on the day of the exam, increasing my anxiety. Small things will creep up, compound, and then game over for me. Right. Yeah. So that was just how I took it. One day at a time, to get one question at a time. Yeah.
Got it. So the planning starts way before.
Yeah, for sure.
The day before the test.
You need to. So yeah, you need to keep the planning in mind. You need to have your dates in mind. You need to have, maybe if not an exact date, because you never know if you'll get that time or however that day. But whatever, just have a certain target week, a certain target month. Even though if you need to push it, that's completely fine. I pushed it myself. I was going to give it in August, but I ended up giving it in September. And that's okay. Like, because you know what so when you have some guidance at the back of it, you know that, okay, this is gonna, it's okay. It's fine. I'm doing it for a corrective action. I'm doing it that to create more problems. I'm doing it to minimize my problem. So yeah, just keep everything structured, because you don't want to introduce anything new on the day of the exam, 1 week before the exam, 2 weeks exam. Yeah.
Got it. So, Mohammed, it has been a journey, right? With its ups and downs, sections that we found difficult to crack, but then we eventually cracked, and postponing the exam, all those stuff. So, if there are those 2, 3 things that you want to share with our viewers, things that you're glad you did, things you wished you hadn't done, so what would they be?
So things that I'm glad I did was keeping, for quant and DI, just keeping my practice going on. Okay, if you don't practice 2 hours every day for quant, or don't practice 1 hour every day also for quant, but at least if you're keeping that rhythm going, you know that, okay, quant, you might have a dip here and there in a few mocks, but it's not going, you're not losing your entire process skills that you've built up. You kept them at the back of your mind. If you get a quant question right now and you ask me to solve it, I can solve it. Maybe 5 seconds more, because I haven't practiced it in the last day, but that's okay. On the final 1-2 weeks before exam, you're going to refine that further. So that's just keep that momentum up as much as, and do that by practicing some OG questions. Use Neuron, use the custom quizzes. Do a few questions. That's okay. And just obviously you have to reflect also back if you made some fundamental mistakes. You need to correct them, fix those issues. Know that, okay, next day I'm going to tackle this issue and fix that further. Right. For verbal, I had a lot of issues with boldface. I had a lot of issues with just RCs. Like, I used to spend, although my accuracy was high, I used to spend a lot of time on RCs. And that also caused problems on the final exam. But as my strategy that I just used was making sure that, okay, I'm understanding what the data is, again, replicating, seeing the answer choices, see what is required, looking back in the data. Okay, fine. Maybe not for every single option, but just to confirm and validate the approach that I've taken. So just keeping those process skills with you, because the questions will always be different, as I said, but if your process skills are strong, then you can translate them irrespective of what comes.
Got it. You have the weapons in your arsenal to tackle any kind of question. Maybe it's a different kind of a question, but they need the similar skills that you used to tackle the other question. That's very well said, Mohammed, and I'm so glad that we're having this conversation today. Congratulations again, and on behalf of all our viewers, thank you so much for taking the time out to share your journey with us, your challenges, your victories, and it's always nice to have this conversation, So thank you so much, and all the best for the next steps.
Thank
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.